Hello everyone and welcome. I'm Beastly Eel, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about a Marvel character spotlight on none other than Eric Jostin. Eric Jostin was born in Milwaukee and raised on a farm 30 miles outside of Madison, Wisconsin, the son of Jonathan and Martha Johnston, and he was one brother from a large Midwestern farming family which included Carl and Conrad. His sister Lindy died in an accident, and Eric blamed himself, thinking he could have prevented her death. Racked with guilt, he ran away to join the U.S. Army. He was later discovered smuggling. Johnston ran away from the army and became a soldier for hire under the name as Power Man. Sometime Eric was hired by Nazi scientist Baron Heinrich Zemo to smuggle stolen technology into Zemo's secret South American stronghold where Eric worked sometime as one of Zemo's guards. With this equipment, Zemo built a machine that could project an unknown form of mutagen radiation, aka ionic rays, capable of bestowing superhuman physical powers to his subject. Zemo's first subject was industrialist Simon Williams, who later became known as Wonder Man. When Zemo fled his South American base shortly thereafter, he left his ionic ray machine functional. Eric, who had been wounded by the South American authorities in his latest smuggling venture, sought refuge in Zemo's now abandoned fortress and learned of Zemo's machine. There, Eric came to the mystical attention of the Enchantress and the Asgardian goddess, who had been a former ally of Zemo. The Enchantress offered Eric the chance to submit to the ionic ray treatment, and he readily accepted. When the radiation treatment was through, Eric emerged with physical powers roughly equal to those of Wonder Man. The Enchantress produced a costume for him and dubbed him Power Man. Traveling to the United States, Power Man assisted the Enchantress in her scheme to discredit and defeat the Avengers. When that plot failed, the Enchantress disappeared. The love-smitten Power Man surrendered to the Avengers, and the Avengers refused to press charges. However, the Power Man was released. The Power Man soon met and allied himself with the criminal swordsman and the Russian spy, the Black Widow, who at the time had been brainwashed by the Red Chinese. In battle with the Avengers, Power Man and the swordsman were defeated but not taken into custody. Shortly thereafter, they were pitted unsuccessfully against Captain America by the Red Skull. The Red Skull returned the two to where he found them, and shortly afterwards, the two partners were summoned by the Mandarin to aid him in his scheme of world conquest. Defeated by the Avengers in South America, Power Man and the Swordsman managed to escape while extradited back to the United States. Later, the two were contracted by the criminal Grim Reaper and invited to join the Lethal Legion for an express purpose of extracting revenge upon the Avengers. Although the Legion managed to capture most of the active Avengers, Power Man was defeated by Vision. Vision donned Power Man's costume and infiltrated the Legion's headquarters to rescue his comrades. The Avengers escaped and subdued their captors. This time, the Avengers pressed charges, and Power Man and most of his teammates were tried and imprisoned. When Eric was released, he learned that the name Power Man had been assumed by the hero for hire, Luke Cage. Battling Cage for the right for the name, Eric lost. The strength converted upon by Zemo's machine was on the wane. Disheartened by the defeat, Eric shelved his costume and took a job as a dock worker in order to recontact in the smuggling profession. Count Nefery, who offered him a chance to regain his former strength in exchange for special services, then sought him out. Eric performed the Count's errands and was subjected to a strength enhancing treatment. However, the bargain was all a scheme by the Count to steal the power of him and his other henchmen for himself. Eric managed to escape while the Avengers battled the Count. He returned to the docks where, under the name The Smuggler, he set up a successful smuggling operation for the black market goods. Spider Man stumbled upon the smuggler's business, however, with his new strength, now a fraction of what it had once been, Spider Man managed to defeat him in combat with ease. When he was finally set free, Eric left the East Coast and headed towards California. While in prison, Eric had heard of a criminal scientist in Los Angeles who specialized in the study of superhuman powers. Dr. Carl Malus. Arranging a meeting with Malus, Eric again made a bargain to renew his lost strength. Unlike the Count, however, Malus did not renege on their deal and not only enhanced his strength to its original level, but also subjected him to to extract an extract of the growth formula created by Dr. Henry Pym, the original Giant Man, as well as the original Ant-Man, Goliath, and Yellowjacket. Malice acquired it from the patient of his who he had stolen it from Pym's one-time partner, Dr. Bill Foster, also known as Goliath in the second Giant Man. The Pym formula reacted with the strength-enhancing treatment to give Eric far more physical power than he had ever known. He decided to take on the name Goliath, deriving satisfaction from stealing a hero's name, even as the hero once stole his. Exhilarated by his newfound power, Goliath rampaged through Los Angeles in a bid to make his might known to the world. He was challenged by the West Coast Avengers and was defeated. Um, However, they were barely able to subdue him. This included Wonder Man, Hawkeye, and Goliath. By making him overextend his powers, Goliath was held in a special laboratory beneath the Avengers compound in Los Angeles. Allies of the Grim Reaper later freed Goliath. Goliath joined the Reaper in his battle against the West Coast Avengers, the Vision, and the Scarlet Witch. But after the Reaper and his allies were defeated, Goliath was returned to captivity. Became something of a stalker of Wonder Man, who had thought he had got the better deal in the ionic process. He was defeated by Wonder Man in Los Angeles. Excuse me. Later, Goliath attacked Hawkeye when Barton went back into his growing identity as Goliath too, once again challenging a hero for his name. He was beaten by Barton and Mockingbird. Eric was abducted by aliens of the extra-dimensional cosmos, with a K, from which stemmed the source of his size-changing powers. He was tortured there for an undefined period before being rescued by Baron Zemo, who had who had, who was building another Masters of Evil. With the help of Zemo's associate, the Fixer, Eric's body was purged from the Pym particles from which he had reacted negatively with the ionically charged body to produce a mental strain. This caused his powers to stem from his ionic treatment alone. Now he's going by Atlas. In gratitude, Atlas offered Zemo his undying loyalty and assumed the identity of Atlas. When Zemo created the Thunderbolts, masquerading as heroes in order to carry out Zemo's plan of world domination, during his time as a Thunderbolt, Atlas had developed a relationship with the mayoral assistant Dallas Rodbrin. But when Zemo's true plans were revealed, Rodrin rejected Atlas against his loyalties. Atlas ultimately betrayed Zemo and the other Thunderbolts and saved the world. Atlas and the other members decided they preferred fighting for justice, and the Thunderbolts set out to make their way as a legitimate superhero team. Later, however, he was kidnapped and controlled by the Count once again, who had found that he had mentally dominated people such as Atlas, who were powered by ionic energy, wholly transformed into a being of ionic energy by the Count. Atlas fought the Avengers and the Thunderbolts before the two teams united to defeat the Count. Atlas's body was unaccustomed to the stresses that were unleashed by the Count's manipulation and was forced to be hospitalized. He then became the target of the latest Scourge, aka Nomad, who was hunting down and killing various members of the Thunderbolts. Atlas was forced to fight Scourge, but his powers overextended, threatening to destroy the immediate area. Scourge helped confine Atlas with the help of a size-altering Pym particle, but Atlas seemingly perished within the explosion. However, since Atlas was by this time being comprised of ionic energy, he in fact did not die. His ionic essence was able to seek out Dallas Radrin, contacting her through mutual love. With Dallas's help, he could suffuse her being with his energy, allowing him to share her body. When Atlas is in control of her body, she appears as a fully charged ionic beam. Eric was thus able to return to the Thunderbolts in their latest attempt to stop the villain Graviton, a battle which sparked an alien invasion. Ultimately, um, Eric and Dallas's combined form, and the rest of the Thunderbolts were beaten by Graviton to the world of the Counter Earth after he closed the alien's dimensional portal. After initially embarking on a plan to return to the native Earth, the Thunderbolts agreed to use their powers to help save the people of the war torn and catastrophic Earth. On Counter Earth, the Thunderbolts were once again led by Baron Zemo, and they eventually encountered a spacecraft whose engines emitted a radiation that began eating the Earth from the inside. The Thunderbolts embarked on a plan to combine their powers to punt the alien ship off Counter Earth and sever its link between the real Earth. However, in order to complete this plan, the Thunderbolts needed to be inside the engine spawned void and consume the ionic energies of Atlas. In so doing, they re-emerged from the void on the real Earth, forfeiting their roles and placed on Counter Earth. Moreover, Eric's energies seemed spent, and he bodily separated from Dallas, existing as separate beings. Eric's powers seemed lost completely, although Dallas's nervous system was repaired, allowing her to walk again and gain her superhuman abilities. Immediately upon exiting the void, the Thunderbolts confronted their former teammates, Hawkeye and Songbird, who had formed another version of the Thunderbolts on Earth and were also trying to plug the Earth's counterparts to counter Earth spacecraft. The two teams of Thunderbolts combined forces to plug the void and shun the alien ship from Earth. Eric was later accosted by the Thunderbolts fixer, who had broken into a weapon case in Iraq and had found canisters of pip particles. Being shot with an infusion of the particles, Eric found his size altering powers renewed. Eric hesitantly followed Zemo in the Thunderbolts' many actions of questionable heroism. But where the ends justify the means, Zemo's ultimate plan involved the creation of the Liberator, a device that would drain abnormal uses energy throughout the world, and the Thunderbolts hoped this would enable them to reduce the global threats, eliminate superhuman terrorism, and stabilize the world's status quo. They were they were betrayed by Moonstone, however, who absorbed the powers that the Liberator had harnessed. Her emotional state, combined with her near cosmic power, excuse me, began to threaten the entire planet, and the Thunderbolts and the Avengers teamed up to defeat Moonstone. Afterwards, the members afterwards um, Afterwards, the members of the Thunderbolts then agreed to go their separate ways, and Eric agreed to have the pin particles purged from his system, returning him to normal. Later, when the Avengers formally disbanded, Mach 3 decided to reform the Avengers. He recruited Eric as a support member. Even though his powers seemingly to be gone, the team made their debut by saving Manhattan from the terrorist attacks of the renegade Atlanteans. And during the battle, Eric found his size altering powers had returned. When Zemo attempted to take control over the wellspring of power, Eric, now going by the name Atlas, fell into a coma while stopping up the energies from spreading on Earth. Atlas eventually recovered from his coma and temporarily joined the Defenders. Atlas later joined up with Wonder Man's Revengers. Atlas' reason for joining the group was that he was rejected many times to join the initiative. At some point, Atlas was captured by Shield and incarcerated at Pleasant Hill. Shield used the Kobik project on Atlas, which turned him into an unnamed Pleasant Hill mailman. And after Zemo restored him to his original self, Atlas was seen as part of Zemo's loyalists. But when he wasn't seen fighting the Avengers, he wasn't seen fighting the Avengers unlike the others. Following the Pleasant Hill incident, Atlas joined up with Winter Soldier's incarnation of the Thunderbolts with the goal to prevent Shield from continuing the Kavik project. Atlas was later approached by Baron Zemo in his third incarnation of the Masters of Evil in order to recruit him. When he resisted, the Masters of Evil attacked him as Jolt showed up to help him. During the fight against the Masters of Evil, Atlas and the Thunderbolts were defeated and captured. During the opening salvo, Atlas, Moonstone, and the Fixer deflected to the Masters of Evil after Baron Zemo used Kobik's abilities to send Winter Soldier back in time. After Kobik shattered, Atlas assisted in searching for her fragments in order for Baron Zemo to put her back together. He later joined Baron Zemo's army of evil along with other Masters of Evil members, and aided in Hydra's takeover of the United States. And after Hydra's takeover, Atlas and the rest of the army of evil were placed in status by Hydra out of fear of what they would do if they were allowed to remain free. After Hydra's regime fell, Atlas was likely awakened from status and taken into custody. So his powers, he has an ionic energy form. Basically, he has immeasurable strength, invulnerability, limitless stamina, enhanced perceptions and reflexes. He has an energy form, which is latent due to being a creature of pure energy. He has the ability to shift between energy form and a physical form at will. He has the ability to fly. He has energy manipulate. Excuse me. Energy manipulation. He has energy transferal abilities. He has pan-dimensional phasing, um, which apparently is shifts in which cause him to warp between the Cosmosian home dimension and back whenever he pushes his powers too hard. He's immortal, apparently, self sufficient, ionic healing. He can manipulate his size. He has mass particle transference. And his abilities are he's experienced in hand to hand combat. He's a trained pilot. He's a trained marksman. His weaknesses apparently adamantium and ionic lock. So a power grid, as always, is out of 7 in Marvel. So his intelligence is a 2 because it's considered normal. His strength is a 7 because it's immeasurable. His speed is a 2 because it's normal. His durability is a 7 because it's unmeasurable. His energy projection is a 1 because he didn't really have any. And his fighting skill is a 4 because he's an experienced fighter. Now, the reason why I wanted to talk about this character is because he has the potential of being a villain for Wonder Man. He's a character that's been going up against Wonder Man for decades in the comics. That it wouldn't be all that shocking to have Atlas or some version of Atlas actually be the villain against Wonder Man. But we'll have to wait and see until the end of January to know for sure if there's going to be a villain in Wonder Man. But for now, if there's a character spotlight you'd like me to do, please let me know in the comments down below. And as always, if you like the content you see, please make sure to like and subscribe down below. Other than that, this is going to be Beastly Eel signing out. Have a wonderful night. Bye bye.